couple more minutes, and then we'll be able to get started.
Hi everyone, this is Chip.
Hey Chip, this is Lee with Proctor U. Hey Deb, how are you? Yeah, I do think GoToMeeting made a recent update, maybe as recent as last week. They've well, it looks like we're 2 or 3 after the top, so we may have a few more join, but why don't we go ahead and begin? And since we have a large group and you know, there's a few Proctor U people on the phone, I don't know that we'll make all of you guys go through introductions, but I'll introduce myself. My name is Lee Caldwell. I'm the implementation project manager at Proctor U, for those of you that I've not met before, but I've been working with Terry and his team to prepare for your launch of online testing using Proctor U to proctor your exams. So today's training session will review our platform. There'll be a number of different items that we are going to cover. I'm actually going to record the session as well. I'll do that. I'll start that recording here in just 1 second. Please feel free to ask questions. Leading up to this session, I did set up everyone with an instructor account in Proctor U that came from a list that Terry sent over to me. You likely received an email that had, you know, a link to log in. If not, please let me know, and I will provide my contact information, or you can get it from Terry. Either way, if you had any problems with that, but we want to make sure that you can get in. If you are able to get in, you're welcome to follow along on your own system today. But today's session will be led by my colleague, Vanessa Cornelison, who is our adoption specialist. And she is going to be guiding the session today and answering your questions along the way as you prepare to get started. So with that being said, Vanessa, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thanks, Lee. Okay, so in today's session, basically we're going to go over the Proctor U platform, how the exam session entry process works for us, and then some additional features that you'll have to be able to use along with the sessions you create. So of course, anything that I need to recover or any questions you have regarding what I go over today, again, like Lee said, feel free to ask. We want to make sure that you all are as comfortable as possible with the system, especially with setting up these sessions for your testers. So give me just a moment here. I'm actually going to share my screen. Let's see. All right. Excellent. Can everyone see my screen here?
I can, yes, Vanessa, thank you.
Perfect. All right, so this is the basic Proctor U platform for instructors. So when you're coming through the system and are getting ready to set up your exam sessions, this is where you'll need to be for setting those up with the live sessions. So of course, all your information will be housed here from the Proctor U perspective as well. So meaning recordings, sessions, reports, all of those will be housed here in the Proctor U account. Now, of course, your actual exams, so the actual exams with the results and the questions, all of that will still be on your test site. So that will be completely separate thing. But as far as just the Proctor U standard of the recordings and incident reports that come from proctors, that'll be housed here. So first things first. Oh, yes. On Canvas, well, Lee, do they have the integrated portion of Canvas, or is it just directly from the Proctor U website?
We set up their LTI integration with Canvas.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. No problem. So for anyone that hasn't explored the LTI yet on Canvas, on the left bar in your Canvas, there will be a basic tab there that will say Proctor U. If you click it, it will bring up a window in your Canvas site with this dashboard in it. Now, if it asks you to sign in, then you would just use your account, your Proctor U account credentials, like Lee was saying earlier. If you haven't created your Proctor U account, from that screen, it will ask you if you have an account or not. If you don't, it will prompt you to create an account there, and then it will automatically log you in afterwards. So just so you're aware of that. But once all of that's done, this is the basic dashboard that will appear. You can also just come directly to the Proctor U website and log in directly and just, come into your account. So either way would work. The information would still be over, from either side. So for the exam entry process, as far as the exam sessions in our system, we only ask for the basic information for the exam that's being administered. So meaning we just want the titles, how long the exam is, what resources are being allowed, etc. As I mentioned earlier, results, questions, answers, all of that will still be on the Canvas side. So as far as the basics, if you've already got your Canvas exam ready to go and set up, then it's just basic plug and play for our system. So to add exam sessions into our system, you click the little add new button over here, and you'll see where it says exam. That will bring you into our exam profile form. Now, later on, if you kind of need a refresher or you need some guidance while you're doing this exam entry portion, we also have an exam entry guide that does basically what I'm doing today. It takes you step by step through the same process of entering the information for your exam sessions. So we'll go ahead and click exam here. And this brings you into the profile form for this exam. So basically what happens is, like I said, you're just plugging in the information for the exam that you wish to administer with our Proctor U service. So we'll start at the beginning here. I'm going to add in just a little fake exam here. We like to get as detailed as possible with these exams. So meaning if you can include your course name and number in here, that would be great, because these exams need to be distinguishable in our system for the testers when they come through for scheduling. So Math 300, the name of it, trigonometry, and whether it's exam 1, 2, or 3. Super easy, nothing too difficult about that. For your department, this is where you're going to choose the service lines that you're wanting to actually utilize with us. So I know we already have the astronomy department in here. If that applies to you, you could definitely select that. But the ones we want to focus on today are either the Live Plus service line that we have or the Review Plus with Live Launch. The difference between those is the Live Plus service line is completely proctored by a live proctor. So it's completely monitored by a live proctor from beginning to end. They get the tester into the session, they help them, they monitor them while they're testing, and then they help them with the submission at the end. The difference with the Review Plus with Live Launch, the proctor, a live proctor, is there at the very beginning assisting the tester with checking the area, making sure that they have the proper materials available in their environment, and also, making sure their ID verification and everything is correct and it's good to go. Once they get into Canvas, the proctor is also the one typing in if your exam's password protected. They're also the one typing in the password in order for the tester to begin the session. Once the exam is started and the tester is good to go, the proctor basically pulls out, and our artificial intelligence in the background monitors the session with the tester until the very end upon the submission. And then once that exam is submitted, is sent back to that proctor so that they can review the session, or sent to a different proctor for them to review, make sure everything went well. If anything goes wrong, that's when you would receive a report regarding it. So that's the huge difference between that. So whichever you'd like to go to, go towards whichever exam you need, you would just make the selection for that service. And then be sure if you're selecting that for your department, that you're also making that choice. If you're making that for your department, if you need to come back and change this at any time, you can make changes and edits to this form up until 24 hours before the first exam session begins. Meaning, if you have your first session starting on Monday, you can make changes up until 12 a.m. Sunday. So during that 24-hour period, if you do need to make changes, just contact us and we can make the changes for you. But after the 24-hour period is done, then you can go back in and make your changes. For incident users, this is regarding the reports I keep mentioning. So occasionally in the system, you may receive an incident report from a proctor regarding something that may have occurred during the session. So anything from technical issues, connection issues, if there is an issue with resource discrepancy, password issues, etc. The proctors may create a report regarding that. So if you want to be the one to receive the notifications when reports are being filed about your exam, then you make sure you add yourself here as an incident user. You can also add multiple people here as well. So if you have a TA or an adjunct that has a ProctorU account that you want them to keep an eye on the reports, then you can add them as well. Like I mentioned, as long as they have a ProctorU account, you can add them. And then for the instructors portion, obviously, if you're the instructor for this course or for this exam, you want to make sure you're adding yourself as the instructor. Now for the configuration portion, this is where we're just getting into the details regarding the exam being administered. So the term that you want to set it for, obviously either summer or fall, whichever that falls into. The duration, how long is the exam in minutes? So that could be 60, 120, 180, however long your exam is for the tester. This does not include the period that it takes for the proctor to get the tester into the exam. This is strictly for the exam itself. So you don't have to worry about minutes being taken away from it. The exam URL is just the link for the test itself. So the link where the landing page is for your exam. So in Canvas, if you were to go to the first page where the exam is, where the start button would be located, you can literally just copy the link from the top of the page and paste it here. It doesn't mean that, that doesn't mean that they actually have access to the exam or anything. This is just the landing page. The proctor would still end up having to put the password in if it's password protected, so the tester won't be able to have access to this. All the information being put in this form, by the way, is only viewable by yourselves and the proctors, and of course here at ProctorU. So no testers would have any access to this information, so all of it's very secure. If the tester logs in, or if the tester connects with the proctor and the proctor provides the link, but the tester isn't logged into Canvas, then that's fine. They'll still be directed to log into their Canvas site, and they should still be able to navigate to the correct exam. For whitelisted URLs, this is going to be the links regarding any other websites that the tester would need to have access to besides the test site. So for instance, if they have to go outside of Canvas to access maybe a PDF form or a certain book or discussion board, then if you want to provide the link for those materials, then you would click Add URL and add the link for that here. You can add multiple links here as well. It has the option for this link to be opened during the exam launch. That way the proctor is aware that this link is okay to be used during the exam and that the website is approved for being used. So just making sure you're aware of that. And then of course the exam password, I keep mentioning the exam password protection. If you have a password linked for your exam to be protected with, we need to know that information so the proctors can enter that for the testers. So just make sure that whatever password you add in here is accurate and that it will work for the exam. So if you have to come back later, if the ones with the fields that have the asterisks by them are the ones that have to be filled out when you're completing the form. If there's information that you don't have as of yet, that's okay. You could just leave it blank for now, and then you could come back and edit it and add it later. So if you don't currently have an exam password for the session, that's fine. If you want to protect it later, you can come back in and add it. template, we can ignore that portion. I'll show you how we do the cloning method instead for replicating the information within an exam session, especially if you have multiple exams that are needing to be input in the system. But for terms of service, this is going to be regarding any terms, conditions, policies that need to be adhered to by the tester for your exam. So usually maybe it's something like an honor clause that you may want to add here that the tester has to read through before they can schedule for an exam. So it'll be brought up to them when they get to the scheduling menu for their exam, or before they get to the scheduling menu for their exam. They have to read through it and they either agree or disagree to it. So if you'd like to utilize this feature, by all means, it's there for you. If not, you could just leave it blank and everything would still go according to plan. So the permitted resources is definitely where we want to know what resources are going to be allowed for your exam. So whether that's textbooks, calculators, note cards, sheets of scratch paper, we have all of that listed here for you to choose from. If you have multiple things that are needing to be allowed, by all means, you choose anything necessary. The proctors are going to be making sure that these materials are in the environment, and any extra materials that aren't on the list, they're going to have the tester remove those from the environment. So just making sure that we're very clear and aware of what's allowed. And if no resources are allowed at all during an exam and they're only just supposed to take the test itself, then you just put no resources allowed. All right, and then since we have, now I know we do have our bathroom breaks as well down there. We normally don't recommend bathroom breaks if your exam's only going to be 2 hours or less, simply because the proctors do have the testers before they get into the exam, take a quick break or use the restroom before they go through. So otherwise, if you're going to use restroom breaks, it's going to need to be either, I would suggest to use it for maybe a 3 or 4 hour long exam if you have any that long, or if it's maybe if it's an accommodation for someone, we do have a section for you to be able to designate that as well. For permitted browsers, this is mainly for our system since you're doing the live service, so both the live launch and the live plus, we have our ProctorU extension that the testers will need to have on their system, and it currently works with Chrome and Firefox. So those are the two browsers that they will need in order to access the system correctly and to be able to gain proper access with the artificial intelligence and the proctors. So shouldn't be too hard, shouldn't get any pushback from that. Most testers have either or on their systems already. And then other resources would be just resources that are not in the list above, or if you're wanting to get very specific about a certain resource, meaning if you have a textbook and you want to list the name and title of that textbook, by all means, you can add that to the other resources box. Or if it's something that they actually do need, like maybe a translation dictionary or just a regular dictionary or anything like that, you can add that to the other resources box here. For expected number of test takers, this is just the roundabout number of how many testers you think will come through for taking your particular exam. So whether that's a full class or maybe just a couple of testers, just how many will come through. We use this for our proctoring ratio just to make sure that we have plenty of proctors available for all of the testers that are coming through for your exam. So if it starts off at something small, like maybe 10 or 20 or so, that's perfectly fine. Now, if this number ends up needing to be changed later, so for instance, if you get an influx of testers coming through for your exam, that's perfectly fine. You can come here again and edit this as you need to. If the number doubles or quadruples, then we need to know, so that way we can adjust our proctoring ratios accordingly. So just make sure you're aware of that whenever you're coming to make your edits and changes. For additional exam notes, so this is where I mentioned earlier about accommodation. So if you have anyone that's going to need a necessary accommodation like the bathroom breaks, or if they require extra time for their exam, then this is where you want to add that information. The only thing that we require is that you just add maybe the person's name, and then whatever they're going to be allotted for the exam. So whether that's double time or, like I said, the bathroom breaks, you're going to add that here. This gives a heads up to the proctors when they're, getting the profiles for the testers and making sure that the accommodations are being met. Just be aware as well, if you are going to allow a tester double time or any change in time from anyone else in the system, be sure you're adjusting that on Canvas. So make sure you're adjusting that on Canvas first before you come in here and make that accommodation, notated in our system. That way, when the testers go in and, the accommodation will be correct. Otherwise, if it's not, then, we would reach out to you to get that adjustment made for that tester. All right. Notify on schedule. Oh, yes.
This
Sorry.
is Nancy. I have a quick question. If a student needs a screen reader, they won't necessarily disclose that to the faculty, but it would be disclosed to our DRC. How should faculty or the students handle that? Should the faculty indicate that in the notes? Will the faculty or the student have to disclose to the faculty that they do have a screen reader accommodation?
Yes, so that would need to be disclosed because, anything like readers, that would be an accommodation we'd have to have met. So that way the proctor can make sure that, you want to make sure the proctors are aware of these things. There are certain environments that they look for. If they have a reader, they may think that that's a program they're just trying to use. So yes, if it's better for us to be knowledgeable about it before the testing begins than the tester not being able to use it at all.
Okay, so it may be helpful for the faculty to include a statement in their syllabus saying if you are using, or if you have any accommodations pertaining to DRC, to privately inform the instructor, just so that they are able
Yes.
to adjust accordingly.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Nancy, I don't understand the question where you said that students aren't disclosing that information to the instructor. I don't know if legally I can make an accommodation if it hasn't been disclosed to me in the form of a letter.
I don't know what DRC has for screen readers. I do know that they are supposed to disclose if they require additional time, but I have not seen anything for a screen reader in any accommodations.
Yeah, because as an instructor, I wouldn't know to make that accommodation unless I see it. I'm very clear and upfront with my students about legally what I can and can't do in terms of their disclosure to me. So I would be very concerned about a situation where they're not disclosing to the actual instructor that they need a screen reader.
Okay. All right.
Then in that case, so in a scenario like that, that's when we would actually be reaching out. So if we do come upon a situation where the tester does have an accommodation that they would like to be met, then, we would basically escalate the situation to either that instructor or an administrator regarding what next steps we need to take for their exam.
So I had a question. So is there a maximum number of testers that is allowed?
No, not really. There's not a true maximum that we just have set. So, I mean, if you think you're going to have 1,000 students for one exam within, maybe a month or two time period of testing, then that's fine. We just, we like to know that number, like I said, so that we can adjust accordingly.
Perfect. And also on the ADA thing, yeah, I mean, we all know that ADA is really supposed to help everyone. So I'm thinking for things like screen readers, I mean, that should be something that whether you need it or not, you should have the capability to use it. So I'm thinking for the additional exam notes, I say we could say screen readers allowed, whether the student tell us or not. Is that correct?
You can do that. The only thing with, like I said, making sure that people, I do agree, making sure that people that need that accommodation have the opportunity to be able to use it. If you feel more comfortable adding that in for the additional exam notes so as not to, I guess, draw attention to any particular individual, then that's perfectly fine. It would still, the accommodation would still be met. You would just have to just word it in a way where it's everyone is allowed, you know, if necessary, to use a screen reader. So that way it won't be, you know, it won't have any connotations towards any individuals, if that makes sense.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I think the purpose of ADA is really to help anyone, right, or everyone, not just people who need it. So by just adding that, I think to everyone, I don't see any problems with anyone not having access to a screen reader. So just a
So
comment.
that is just in the case of the screen reader, though. So as far as the time constraints or anything, of course, that's completely different process.
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks.
No, ADA is specific to people who have registered with our DRC to have a recognized thing. It's helpful to many students, but it is not just a general
But I'm saying,
broadcast of everybody.
yeah, but Kevin, the purpose of ADA, the overall purpose of ADA is to provide everything to everyone. Of course, extra time, 80 minutes versus
I
100.
don't believe that, Nasser, because it's a legal definition of who needs accommodation and who does not. I believe philosophically you're correct. I do not believe legally you're correct, but that's a side discussion. So
Okay.
Yeah, we can, that's,
I think
well,
that's a
don't worry
side.
with the,
Yeah.
I was going to say, with the Proctor U system, I mean, you have the choice of being able to do it either way. It's going to just depend upon you all what you're most comfortable with, regardless philosophically or legally. So just, keep that in mind. How you're able to do it in our system is going to just be honestly dependent upon you. So that's definitely something that can be discussed amongst yourselves whenever you're getting ready to set all of these sessions up and get your testers coming through the system. How you want to go about communicating that out, or how you want to have that distributed with us. So, make sure you're just all kind of keeping that in the back of your mind.
Yeah. Sorry about bringing that up at all. Yeah, please.
No, you're fine.
Let's go. Thanks.
Completely fine.
Hey,
For
Vanessa,
notify.
oh,
Oh,
can I jump in real
what's up?
quickly? Sorry about that. Yeah, just real quickly, just kind of wrap this up. I think, yeah, for the screen readers, I think that's fine. It's just from our perspective, we're more concerned at things that are unique to the students, like extra time. And so we do need to be notified in advance of that student receiving extra time to complete their exam. Because if it's students coming in and telling us that they receive extra time for this exam, and then we have a process of where we'd reach out to you guys to confirm, that's just really messy, and it'll probably lead to a lot of bad experiences. And worst case scenario, we're not able to confirm with someone at CSN. And so, how do we proctor that exam? So that's the scenario that we are looking to avoid. Just giving us the heads up. However we decide we're going to do that. But that's kind of our goal and what we're looking to avoid, so that regardless of who's taking an exam at CSN through ProctorU, it's going to be like a smooth, seamless experience. So hopefully that makes sense to everyone. Sorry, Vanessa, go ahead.
No problem. All right. For notify on schedule emails, if you'd like to be notified whenever your testers are actually scheduling to take your exam, you want to make sure you add your email address here. You'll be sent an email notification that testers are scheduling. Again, kind of up to you if you want to utilize this, or if you want to add something like a help center or anyone in here just to keep an eye on testers scheduling, that's perfectly fine. You do have a way to be able to see the testers that are coming through and scheduling on your own. You don't have to utilize this, but again, if you feel more comfortable, by all means, add as many emails in there as you'd like. For contact info for exam issues, of course, if anything goes wrong in Canvas, like if the site's down for maintenance, if the exam's not posted, if the password won't work, we need someone we can reach out to hopefully be able to resolve that issue. So if the instructor would like to have their information here for us to reach out at that time, then of course you can add your information here. If you have a primary and a secondary contact, make sure you're putting your primary first in these first 3 bars. And then the secondary contact will go down here in the notes and times available box. Also, make sure you're making us aware of the time that you are available. Even though our support and our proctors are available 24/7, we do realize not everyone wants to be woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning for an exam issue. So the more aware you make us regarding, your time, your availability, the better it is for everyone involved. And then last but not least is going to be the scheduling window. So this is where you're going to be able to dictate the information of when appointments are able to be scheduled with the proctor. So the first appointment obviously is the very first time the proctor can, take the tester through the session, or when the tester can schedule to take their exam session. So, if you want to set that as far in the future as you'd like, you're more than welcome to. The last appointment is going to be a little different though. So the last appointment time is the last time the tester can schedule, but still receive the full amount of time to take the exam. So for instance, if I have this exam set for 2 hours, if I know this exam lasts 2 hours in Canvas, and I'm gonna have it close on the website at 11:59. The time that I want to set for the last appointment is going to be either 9:30 or 9:45. The reason why I say that is because not only does it give the full 2 hours for the tester to take the exam, but it also gives a nice 15-minute buffer just in case if they have technical issues, if they come through late, if they, have anything that they need to get as far as clearing the area. It gives a nice buffer for that. So of course you can adjust this as you'd like. If you'd like to go ahead and just give an extra 30 minutes for all of that to happen, that's fine too. They would still have that full 2 hours to take the exam. And then if you need to add multiple windows for scheduling, so like here I have it where I'm opening the exam from the 19th through the 30th. If I'm going to have the same exam open at a different time, say in August, then I can actually set multiple windows to be able to do that. So if I have a group A and a group B that are taking the same exam, then I can set that accordingly. So you can always, make additional windows as necessary in the system. But if you're just using the one window for your exam, by all means, that's perfectly fine. You could just keep that as it is. So once all of those asterisk fields are completed and everything is ready to go, then you'll just go down to the bottom and just click submit for review.
Vanessa,
Yes.
I had a quick question. So on the notify on schedule emails, the interface you were showing, that's a faculty member trying to set up a exam, right? Is that, did I?
Yes.
Okay, so when it says notify on schedule emails, who are we? You mentioned something like testers are scheduling. I mean, testers being students, they are into scheduling, right? We are scheduling.
No, the testers would be scheduling their own sessions because they'd be picking their own times to take the exams.
Oh, is that a different? Because you just showed how to add a new exam. Okay, so for that exam, testers will have a link to go in and schedule their exam within that time then, right? I see.
Right.
Okay. Okay, so there's another interface then. Okay. All right,
Yes.
thanks. Okay.
No problem. All right. Once it's submitted and ready to go, it will be sent over to our assessments team. They're going to review all the information that you've input for the exam entry portion and make sure everything looks good. So currently this exam is inactive, meaning, you can't really see it from the home page. It usually takes less than 24 hours for the sessions to be made active. So if you were to submit this early in the morning, by the evening, it should be activated for testers to be able to schedule. If you need to go ahead and add in your other exam sessions, however, that doesn't stop you from being able to do that as long as you're on this page. So I already have my exam 1 created, and I want to go ahead and create my midterm and my final. I mentioned earlier the cloning process that you can utilize to be able to do this. So sorry about that. So for cloning, you would go here to the exam options menu. and you would choose the 5th option to clone this exam. What this does, it clones the exam 1 that I've created, and I can actually utilize it in order to create my midterm and my final for this course. So all I would do is just change the title here. And if I want to change the service line, I could change it to the Review Plus with Live Launch. And then anything else that's going to be different with the midterm, such as if the time, the time changes, I can change that, passwords, etc. So anything else that needs to be changed, especially with the dates that need to be, you need to be aware of, you can make the changes to that. And then you'd click submit for review, and it would do the same thing. It would send the exam over to the assessment team for them to review. So you could do cloning as many times as you need to for your exams. So that way, if you need to go ahead and populate the rest of your exam sessions into the system so that they can get reviewed and get activated, you're more than welcome to do that. So it just saves a lot more time for you to do the cloning process than having to go through that initial exam entry form all over again.
On the cloning, are you able to merge, say, 2 exams to create a midterm, like exam 1, exam 2, and then that puts it, or is that a separate process?
We don't have a way to merge information from 2 separate instances, unfortunately. So when you do the cloning, it takes whatever exam summary page you've landed on. So I have my exam 1, it's going to replicate the information directly from that exam 1.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. All right. For the exam sessions that come through in the system, like I did mention, the information for those will appear here. So this is the exam summary page. To access this, you would just, from your home page, you would see the title of your exam. If you click the title of your exam, you would happen here upon the summary page. The sessions will be located down at the bottom. So of course, there's just 0 sessions right here right now. But once the schedulings start coming through the system for those exams, you'll start seeing test takers' names. You'll start seeing the status of their scheduling. So whether or not it's currently scheduled in the system, if it's pending the scheduling being reserved, or if it's fulfilled. So fulfilled means that they've completed their session and they're done with their exam. So you would see that as the status, and then it would even show you the specific time and day that they've chosen to schedule to take their exam session with the proctor. So you'd have all of that utilized down here at the bottom. So that's what I was mentioning as well. If you don't want to be the one receiving the emails, you can still come into your account and actually see who's scheduled down here at the bottom. Now, as far as the invitations for sending to testers for scheduling the exams, there are 2 different ways you can do that. One is usually an easier way, which is the open invite link. So we have where once the exam session that you've created is made active, there can be an open invite link that you can utilize. So it'll be located here for you to be able to create a link for scheduling your exam. You can send that to the testers, or you could post that on Canvas if you'd like, and it would take them to the basic scheduling screen for the exam that you've set up here. So if you have multiple different exams that you're wanting to utilize the open invite for, each of those open invite links will be specific to those exams. So they will not be the same links. All of them will be different depending on which exam you're setting it up for. Now, another way you can also send invitations out is through our invite test takers button here. If you have the emails of all the testers that need to take the exam and you'd like to send a batch invitation to those testers, then as long as those emails are in an Excel or CSV file, you can choose the file from your system and upload it and then send the invite out. Anyone's email that's within either the Excel or CSV file will be sent an invitation to schedule, again, specifically for what exam you've chosen here. So just, oh, yes. Yes, so they can navigate on their own ProctorU accounts and actually select whatever exams that they need. So again, that's, requiring them to, log into the ProctorU account. go to the scheduling menu and select whatever exam they need. And then from there, it'll to ask them what day and time they wish to take it.
Hey, Vanessa, can we show them the open invite link? I just activated the exam that you're on. So if you want to refresh and just show them where that is, I think that's probably a more elegant solution.
Yeah, but ultimately, Vanessa, yeah, that was right. This should all be done through our Canvas link. Ideally, now the other question while you're doing this, do students have to have a Proctor U account in addition to their Canvas account?
Yes, so they have to have a Proctor U account in order for the Proctor U information and data to be held in our system. So they have to have Proctor U accounts.
Okay, and then ideally, yeah, that's how we do this, is that we have an exam in Canvas, and the students right now click on it and they take it right in Canvas. What we want, I suppose, that link, that the open invite link, is that how we give students the ability to actually take the test?
So the open invite link is for scheduling the exam. So scheduling the time and day that they wish to actually take the session with the proctor. So if you provided the link like here, you provided the link for the session and they were to click it, they'd be taken to this page.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay, so
receiving the invitation for taking this exam.
So that's just for the invitation. The actual test taking is still, done in Canvas, and Proctor is actually looking at the review of their exam, making sure.
Right. So
Okay.
yeah, so they still have to connect to a proctor before they can go into Canvas to actually start their exam.
I see. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, just so everyone's clear, when it's exam day and exam time for students, is they're going to use our website to connect to a proctor, and then we'll take them back to Canvas to access the exam.
Oh, so then do they have to link? Do we have to provide that Proctor U navigation link so students will click on that first?
Yeah, so that's what's really great about this open invite link is the first time students click on it, not only are they going to schedule the exam, but they're going to create their Proctor U account prior to that. So it's all encompassing. Okay. And so through that website, they're going to be able to access the exam, as well as through the LTI integration, right? Vanessa, am I?
I see.
So the LTI integration,
We'll
I don't think this. Yeah,
Oh,
I don't think the
not...
students actually have access to the LTI integration. I think it's only the instructors and administrators that have access to that.
Okay, so students will be going to our website when it's their exam time. So in order to take the exam, because if they're just sitting in Canvas, they're just going to see an exam that requires an access code, right? So if they want to be able to access that exam and take the exam, they need to come to our website when it's exam time, and then we're going to walk them through the process of securing their environments and making sure everything's on the up and up, and then we'll take them back to Canvas and unlock the exam for them, and then we're going to watch them while they take the exam.
Yeah, we need, I think you may have these, we need detailed instructions for a student view and detailed instruction, of course, for a faculty to create an exam. But yeah, like Deb said, can you do a demo from a Canvas course to see how that works?
That would be probably defer to either Patrick or Lee for that. I guess because right now I was wanting to, well, as far as the training session today, we're just making sure that we get through the, initial setup as far as exam entry and everything. The student side and the student perspective would be something completely separate.
Yeah, we'll cover that through this process. We're kind of focusing more on the initial steps of getting exams set up. So yeah, definitely we'll get to that.
All right.
Sorry, I have some questions on the exam stuff as well. The exams and quizzes that I have to use are not on Canvas.
Okay. And if they're not on Canvas, I mean, that still works perfectly fine. Of course, the LTI dashboard and everything that everyone's talking about, it wouldn't apply to you. But if you still have the URL for where they would access your exams, you would still add that in the system and the proctors would be able to take them there. And if your exam is password protected, you just need to put the password for your exam in there.
Yeah, I'll have to check if there's an accessible URL because it's through a publisher's site. It's pretty convoluted, and it's been my experience teaching off of 2 websites at the same time for a single class that students have a real hard time knowing where to go when, even when it's laid out very clearly for them. My concern is integrating yet a 3rd site, but we'll see.
Okay, all right.
Sorry, one other question about the student accounts. Is there a limit? I assume that they connect it to an email. Would that be required that they use their CSN email? Because to be honest, most of our students prefer to use some other email, but that causes problems with their integration with Canvas and also some FERPA issues and policy issues at the college.
So preferably, we'd like that they use their institution emails, and then it would be better for your purposes too, if you're going to,
Correct.
if you do have those policies and everything in place. So yeah, just make sure you're communicating that to testers.
But they won't be limited. They could choose something else if they wanted to.
They potentially,
And that would
yeah,
cause problems, but there's no safeguard. Okay, thanks.
right. So they can go into their own ProctorU accounts and actually schedule for the sessions themselves. So they have their own accounts, they log into the ProctorU website, and they actually have the list of exams for the college that they can choose from that they need. Then they'll be able to select the date and time for it. I currently don't have a student account for College of Southern Nevada linked right now. That's why I was mentioning it may be beneficial if you all do sort of what we call a dry run. That way you'd be able to see that process from beginning to end. And then we also have additional information that we can provide afterwards, after the training today, with videos, resources that we generally like distributed to the test takers regarding the ProctorU system.
So Vanessa, I think I guess one way to really see this is for us to create our own generic student type ProctorU account and then test it that way, right?
Potentially, yes.
That makes, okay, so I think that might be the best way, just to create a Gmail account or something as and you're saying a student with a ProctorU account will be able to see, I guess, to pick College of Southern Nevada and then see all the exams college-wide, and then they pick their thing, or is it filtered somehow?
Yes, so they would see it college-wide. Now, we do have a way to do the, like you're saying, the filtering. However, that would mean that we would end up having to require that open invite link to be sent directly to the testers that need specific exams.
Yeah, I mean, those students, I mean, any student who logs in without that link won't be able to see any of the exams. But as these links build up, they can see more and more. Does that make sense?
No, they'd only be able to see the links for the exams that they received the link for.
Yeah,
that's how the open invite link process works. So if you send a link for the exam 1 and you receive another link from a different instructor you're taking for a art exam, then you'd only be able to see those 2 exams for scheduling. Like I said, that's through the filtering system we have. If you're wanting to keep it where you're letting the test takers choose their own exams to schedule themselves and not have the open invite link, then you'd have to leave it open and they'd have to be able to choose from, based on what, what exams are set up for Southern Nevada.
Okay, yeah, I think, demo would be great, but yeah, I think we'll have to test that. I just can't get my head around the process yet. So, thanks.
No problem.
Yeah. So the open invite link is for a particular exam. So if students are accessing the exam, so let's take this math trigonometry exam 1 as an example. So I'm the instructor for math 300. What I would put in my Canvas kind of like bulletin or updates is schedule exam 1 with Proctor U, and then I would put that link, that URL from the open invite that Vanessa went to in the other tab. And so when students click on that, only the students who have access to that course in Canvas will be able to see this link. So they'll click on it and it'll have them schedule Math 300 Trigonometry Exam 1. So it doesn't require any email addresses. There isn't going to be a drop-down list of a bunch of exams. It'll be this one exam. But even so, the way our exams are filtered are by term. So, and you guys will see this. This is just kind of a separate training that we'll do later. So that's why Vanessa was focusing on kind of a different aspect for it. So we'll definitely get to this. But when students are using the dropdown to schedule an exam, the first thing they're going to select is the term. So depending on the academic calendar, however that works, it'll have all of those terms listed out. And so they're only going to be able to see exams for that term. They won't see exams, 2 years from now, they're not going to see Math 300 Trigonometry Exam 1 from fall 2020, and so on and so forth. So that's one way how exams are filtered out when using the dropdown. But using the open invite link, you're only going to be able to schedule this particular exam. So it cuts out all that other stuff.
So the concern that people have about getting the invite to their students, since there's a unique URL for each exam, wouldn't you be able to just cut that URL, go to announcements in your class, send that URL to every student in the class, and then they have it?
Can the URL be put, I'm on my phone, sorry. Can the URL be put in the description of the exam inside of Canvas? So when they go to Canvas to get ready to take the exam, the first thing they see is the URL?
You could do that, but students should be scheduling their exam in advance. So we want to, because we don't want to run into scenarios where, okay, my exam's, in a week from today at noon. So a week from today at noon, I go to schedule my exam. Worst case scenario, and hopefully it doesn't happen, but worst case scenario is if they have to take it, in the next 10 minutes, is that availability is gone, right? Because we weren't.
So you could put it as a separate assignment, like,
yeah.
Okay, at this point you've started this unit. Be sure to schedule your exam through this URL.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be in an email, is what I'm asking. It could be within the modules or within the assignment inside of Canvas, correct?
Right.
Yes,
right.
definitely.
Yes.
Anywhere you can put a URL, you can put this URL.
Yes.
So am I understanding that a student can't just finish the reading of the chapter on their website and then go to the exam and take it? It has to be scheduled more than 5 minutes in advance. Am I understanding that correctly?
Correct.
Yes. Jinx.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the scheduling purpose, it's beneficial both ways. Technically, students can, just log in and schedule the exam if it's available. But that's the asterisk, if it's available. Our staffing is based off of how many exams we're expecting, and then we kind of build ourselves a little buffer. But during peak exam times, we may run into instances where we're full, and so that time won't be available to take the exam or to have your appointment. So the only way to ensure that you're going to get the time that you want is to schedule the exam with Proctor U like as soon as you can or in advance.
All right. The last couple of things that I definitely wanted to make sure we go over were the incident center, and then where you can actually go to check scheduling day to day. So for these exam sessions, of course, I didn't get to mention either. If you do have a particular case with a tester that they can't take an exam on the specific days you have. So of course, during the times that we have occasionally, you know, you may have a tester that may actually be sick. So if you have a designated time period where they can't come in to be able to take your exam, we do have where you can offer what we call a single user exam session for that tester. That would be here in the exam options menu under create single user exam. So in this case, if you know that tester's EDU, then you can provide that here. Or if they've already created their Proctor U account and you know this, you can select their name from the list. And then the only thing you would need to change at this point is the date for scheduling. So this would only pertain to one single tester that would need a different date and time slot for them to be able to take the exam from the rest of the class. So again, just single case scenarios if it's necessary. And then once you submit it, it will send the scheduling invitation directly to that tester, and then they would basically proceed with scheduling for the date and time you have set here. And they would be the only one to receive that invitation because it's linked to their profile from the list. For incident reports, if you receive notifications that incident reports have come through the system and you need to review them, then those will be housed here in the Proctor U account under the Incident Center. So it'll be in Sessions under Incident Center. And they will be housed here 24/7 for you to be able to review at any time. And they're categorized by color, so it's either red, yellow, or green. Green ones are very minor things. Maybe someone accidentally walked into the room and walked back out. Nothing too big. It didn't completely disturb the session too badly. Yellow ones would be technical issues. So if they experience anything like, you know, camera issues or connection issues, but, you know, the proctor was able to resolve it and they were able to continue their session as normal. The red ones, of course, would be the most severe. So those breaches of integrity and conduct, things of that nature. So if you see any red ones with dots next to them that come in here, make sure you're just checking those out. The proctors provide in full detail in an initial paragraph in the report what actually occurred, and they provide timestamps for you to be able to follow along on the recording of the session. That way, if you want to view the video, you can. It will have it linked in the report for you to be able to go to see the session. So they also include the chat log between the proctor and the tester, so you'll have, you know, further information to be able to look through. If you need further details beyond what's within the report, of course, you can always contact us, and then we'd be able to give you what's necessary.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Do you guys have like specific system requirements like webcams? I know this, you have the browser requirement, but things like a webcam, you know, whatever, anything else, is that somewhere on the web where we could tell our students that they can't take a test without them?
So we've provided that within the Test Taker Resources Center, which again, we'll be sending that information to you all after today. They are required to have a web camera for any sessions they're taking with Proctor U. So whether that's an external camera or it can be an internal camera built into their system, they just need a webcam. So, you know, regardless, they still need it.
And does
And
this
the instructor can't opt out of that?
If they're testing with Proctor U, unfortunately, no, that's a part of our security system. We have to be able to see the testers and their environment in order to make sure that the area is secure and making sure that the testing environment is secure before they're able to take the exams with us.
A number of our students have limited access to computers, say with a camera. Will phones work for this case?
Unfortunately, no, we don't allow phones within the testing area, and then being able to connect the phone to computers and things of that, you know, it's a lot more difficult to monitor as well with a cell
No,
phone
I
camera.
understand. I'm just trying to make sure what I have to put on my syllabus in terms of technology resources if someone needs a proctor. So thank you. That answered my question.
And Vanessa, do you check IDs? Is that how that works too? Like on the initial contact?
Yes, so we check the IDs, we check to make sure that, you know, the person is who they say they are. So yes, we check IDs before they're able to continue with the environment check for the session.
Okay, so you have a list of, I guess, acceptable forms of ID on that.
We usually
Like-
take driver's licenses, government IDs. If you'd like us to take, institution IDs, then, you know, of course, we would let the proctors know that as well. But that's completely up to you all if you want us to accept those.
Okay, but so you require ID, but we can specify what type of ID. Okay,
Right.
thanks.
And Vanessa, apologize for interrupting, David Lavelle, World Languages. So you're using a webcam to videotape basically, or to access the students. Therefore, it cannot be used for a recording of a visual oral at the same time, correct?
Actually, it can. So it depends on it also depends on the nature of the exam itself. So if the exam has it internally where it's able to have the capabilities, it should be able to do all of that at the same time, because the system itself, all of this is in the browser. If the recordings of the sessions and if the recording platform you're using is browser based as well, that's when it would conflict. But if it's more so internal with just the system itself, then it shouldn't be too much of a problem.
Right, it's through Canvas, and therefore the Canvas uses the icon, the web access icon.
Okay, that
Oh, that's
which I
fine.
don't know if that's
We can
fully-
investigate it.
yeah, that's something,
Thank you.
yeah, have to be
Yeah, I think-
investigated later.
I think if it's through the browser, like if it's through Canvas, then that would pose a problem. If it was like a separate program, it might be okay. But yeah, if it's through the browser, our extension's not gonna let that webcam be used for anything else. Or
Yeah.
Thank you.
microphone as well. Yeah.
So just to make sure I'm understanding, a student cannot take a proctored exam with this process with their iPhone or their iPad. Is that correct?
Correct.
I'm just saying that on the list that you specified as far as requirements, you listed Chrome, Safari, IE, and Firefox.
So that's why I mentioned it with the extension that we have that each of the testers will need whenever they're taking the exams. It currently works with Chrome and Firefox. So that's why it's preferred to have the permitted browsers as Chrome and Firefox.
Oh.
If they try to access it with either Safari or Internet Explorer or Microsoft Edge, it wouldn't be monitored correctly in the system. So that's why we try to make sure that they understand fully when they're accessing the ProctorU system, they either do it through Chrome or Firefox for specific specifications of that browser extension. So this up here at the top with this blue owl icon is what's going to need to be, you know, added to either Chrome or Firefox for them to even initiate the session with the proctors.
So the students have to install that add-on themselves, right?
Right.
It-
And we
okay.
provide the links to you all. It's just as simple as clicking a link and adding the extension.
Okay, thanks.
As far as the initial sessions and setup and everything, this is basically all you'll need to know from the get-go to get started. I know I have this in Ramona's account, so I will remove this so that she will not freak out. If you do need to, you know, again, come in, create your exam sessions, we have that exam entry guide button that you can utilize for your first exam sessions. Also, even though you see that I am deleting this exam, I only recommend deleting exams if they have no, and I mean no information in them, meaning nobody's scheduled for it, nobody's pending it, there's blank information in that exam. And if you've just created it and it's a mistake, then yeah, you could just delete it. But otherwise, if you have information in there, it's definitely, you know, we do not recommend deleting any of your sessions if they have information from testers within it. So again, if you're wanting to set up your exam session again and, you know, you need a refresher, the exam entry guide is there for you to be able to utilize 24/7.
Vanessa, as faculty, do we have a direct support email address or phone number or anything like that?
That we can provide, again, we're going to be providing all of that extra information to you all, in an email today, so you'll be able to have access to that.
All right, thank you.
No problem. And then were there any other questions anyone had just regarding the ProctorU setup, the system itself for those exam sessions? All right.
Thanks. I think, yeah, thank you. Good.
No problem. We'll get together after this call today. Like I said, we'll be sending out the information you all need for the resources page for both test takers and instructors, those system requirements, and then we'll be moving forward with trying to possibly get a dry run set up for you all, because it seems like definitely would be beneficial for you all to see the tester side of it. Especially with scheduling and everything, so that you can fully understand how the process actually works.
Yeah, that would be great, having that dry run.
And then Lee,
Well, thank
Patrick,
you,
did you all
Vanessa.
have anything?
No, I don't myself, Vanessa. Thank you for going through everything. I do have some made notes during our session of a couple of follow-ups we have. Patrick, I don't want to speak for you.
Oh yeah, no, I was say yeah, thanks everyone, and thanks Vanessa for leading this.
No problem. All right. If
And
nothing
everyone's
else,
on the call. We'll get the information out to you later that we received from ProctorU.